and welcome back to our course on modern web development. In our previous lessons, we've been building and practicing our knowledge of JavaScript, React, Tailwind CSS, Next.js, and foundations of an AI and machine learning. Now we're going to take our applications to the next level by finally integrating artificial intelligence in our apps. So let's start off our lesson with an introduction to OpenAI and GPT models. So what is it, OpenAI? What does it do, and why it's such a big thing right now? So OpenAI is an AI research and deployment company with a mission to transform artificial general intelligence, which will benefit all of the humanity. They have developed several powerful AI models so far, including the GPT series and their recent model, which is called GPT-01 preview, if I'm not mistaken. And what are GPT models? So from our previous lesson, you probably know that GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, and basically these models are trained on a lot of data of internet text data and can generate human-like based text on the prompts provided. And some of the capabilities of GPT models include text completion, so continue writing from a given prompt, translation, translate text between languages, summarization, it can summarize long pieces of text or even PDF files right now. It can engage in dialogue and answer questions, as well as generate code to get us started with our coding journeys. And by integrating GPT models into our Next.js applications, we can create interactive and intelligent features that can enhance user experience, ranging from voice assistants to business assistants that help with answering emails or questions to customers. So now we're going to transition to understanding OpenAI's API. So OpenAI provides an API for developers that allows developers to access those GPT models, and the API is simple to use and integrates seamlessly with server-side code, making it perfect for Next.js applications. And some of the key features and benefits include, so there's no need to build or maintain AI infrastructure. It gives access to cutting-edge AI models such as GPT-4o, which stands for GPT-4 Omni, DALL-E for image generation, and even voice assistants. It is also very scalable and provides secure integration, so offer mechanisms to secure your API keys and manage usage. And by using the OpenAI API, we don't need to manage the infrastructure or train models ourselves. Instead, we can actually focus on building features and integrating AI capabilities into our applications, which makes it so much easier to develop scalable apps. So now we're going to create our first OpenAI account and get the API key. So to use OpenAI's API, we'll need to create an account and obtain an API key. So to do that, you would have to go to OpenAI's sign up page. I already have an account, so I'm just gonna show you the page, how it looks. And you basically create an account, answer a bunch of questions, verify your phone, and after that you would be logged into your dashboard. So I already have an account, and you would have something like this, so you can read the docs and just play with it. But we're gonna go to dashboard in the top right corner, so dashboard here, just click on that and you will see the playground, and we need to go to the sidebar in the last section, which is called API key, so click on that. And now we can actually create an API key to access the OpenAI API. So click on your profile icon in the top right corner and select view API keys, or go to the sidebar and click the last section, and now we can create a new secret key. So click on that button and give it a name. So for me it's gonna be Nozomio Test AI app, and just select the default project. So for me it's Nozomio, and give it permissions all, unless you want to restrict it or put it in read-only mode. And now create an API key. And once you created an API key, make sure that you're gonna copy it and store it somewhere else, because this is the only time you'll see the API key. And as the security reminder, please keep your API keys private. Do not share it with anyone or expose it in the client-side code or public repositories, because people can just use it and abuse your OpenAI key, and you don't want to do that. So yeah, just store it somewhere. I'm gonna copy it and store it in my documents, so I'll be right back. Now that we've stored our API key securely in our documents, we can start installing the OpenAI Node.js library. And to interact with OpenAI's API, once again, we'll use the official OpenAI Node.js library, which simplifies API calls. So navigate to our lesson and copy this command and go to your code editor of choice. So today for me it's gonna be Visual Studio Code. So go there. Already have the Next.js project set up, and you'll probably also have it since we already played with it during our previous lessons. So now we're gonna run the following command: npm install OpenAI. And basically what it does is it's gonna install the OpenAI library, which we'll use in our server-side code. And after we install the OpenAI library in Next.js, we can create API routes using the app router under the API folder. So we'll create an API route that communicates with OpenAI's API. So now create a new folder within our app folder. So create an API folder, and within the API folder, create a new folder and call it generate. And under this folder, you would have to create a new file called route.js. And in route.js, you would simply paste the code from our lesson. So just copy it, or you can find it in OpenAI's documentation to follow the latest practices. So, and that's an explanation, because it might seem complicated for now, but there's just a bunch of functions and communication with APIs. So on the top, we import Next response for handling responses from Next server. Then we import our OpenAI library from OpenAI. And after that, we can configure the OpenAI API client using the API key from environmental variables. And after that, we use the post function, which handles incoming post requests. So right here. After that, we parse the prompt from the request body, and we call the OpenAI chat completion .create to actually generate the text. And after that, we return the generated text as JSON format. And note that the process environment OpenAI API key, so right here, actually uses our API key, which we're going to define in just a second. We'll have to create a new file called local environment variables. So to make an API call to OpenAI from Next.js, we would have to ensure that our API route works by testing it. So first of all, let's set up our environmental variables. So in the root of our project, so don't use any folders now, create a new file and call it .anv.local in the root of our project once again. And here you would paste your API key. So here, instead of your OpenAI API key, just paste your API key, and I will do that for me, and I'll be right back. So one sec. Now that we all added our environmental variables, restart your server by running this command, so npm run dev. And after you got your server, we're gonna create a new terminal to test out our API route using a tool like Postman, Nozomio, or even curl. And in my case, I'm gonna use curl, so create a new terminal here. And from our lesson, simply copy the command for curl to test our API. So here we're just basically asking it to tell me a joke about cats. So once we run it, we're gonna get a response from OpenAI. So tell me a joke about cats, and we'll get a response: why was the cat sitting on the computer? Because it wanted to keep an eye on the mouse. So yeah, it gave us a joke from OpenAI, and yeah, we successfully communicated with an API, and our API route is working and successfully communicating with OpenAI's API. Now let's integrate this into our frontend so users can actually interact with it. And we're gonna build our first mini AI website. So let's create a simple interface where users can enter a prompt, submit it, and see the AI generated response. So to do that, we're gonna just modify our page.js in our app folder. So before that, we're gonna install a new library to make our app prettier. So the library is called Lucid React, which is basically an icon library. So yeah, download it first and add the following code from our lesson. We import necessary modules and components such as libraries and different modules. And after that, we use some stuff for state management, such as prompt, so which stores the user's input. We also use response, so which stores an AI generated text. We also use loading, which indicates if a request is in progress. We use some errors, which stores any error messages. And we use copied, which indicates if the response has been copied to the clipboard. And we have a bunch of functions, such as handle submit function, which prevents default form submissions and sends a post request to our API route with the user's prompt, and updates the state based on the response. We also have copy to clipboard function, which, as you can guess, basically copies the AI generated response to the clipboard and provides visual feedback using icons. And we also have a bunch of UI elements, such as a text area for user input with a character limit. So right here, we also have a submit button with loading state and error message display. And we also applied some Tailwind CSS styling to make our app prettier. So now we're gonna navigate to our application after running the npm run dev on our local host. So if we load our app here, we're actually gonna see a front end with AI text generator by Nozomio. And once we enter a prompt, it's gonna communicate with OpenAI's API and give us a response back. So let's test it by running hello, how are you? And we're gonna ask it to generate some text. And as you can see, we have the Nozomio's bot response. So hello, I'm just a computer program, so I don't have feelings, but I'm here to help you. How can I assist you today? And let's just play with it and ask how many stars are in the universe. And we're gonna generate the text. And as you can see, it also counts the characters. So we have a limit, we defined a limit before. And yeah, here's the Nozomio's bot response. So it communicates with OpenAI and gives us a response of how many stars are in the universe. So basically now we have a functional Next.js application that interacts with OpenAI's API. Users can input prompts and the application displays AI generated content. We've also added features like character limits, loading indicators, and the ability to copy the response to the clipboard. And if you find it complicated for now, you can kind of explore it in our lesson to test like different functions or apply your own styling to make it less complicated. And this is just the beginning, because we're gonna make a more powerful AI powered application in the future as part of your final project. So yeah, before we wrap up, let's discuss some important best practices for using OpenAI's API. So let's go back to our lesson. So yeah, here we have our code, so you can just kind of play with it. So the best practices are that never expose API keys. So our API key is stored securely in .env.local file and accessed using the process.env in our route.js. Do not commit any env.local. Ensure your gitignore file includes env.local to prevent it from being committed to version control. So yeah, basically there is a file in any code editor which called gitignore. So basically here you just have to define your env local file, which basically will prevent it from being read by GitHub, and it won't be committed to repository, so it won't be exposed to the public once you deploy your project. So yeah, just keep in mind. Also, keep API calls on the server. So by making API calls on the API route app API generate route.js, we avoid exposing our API key to the client. And also about the error handling, provide user feedback. We handle errors and display a message to the users. And log errors, we use server-side logging for debugging purposes. And also monitor usage, keep track of your API usage to manage costs, because obviously OpenAI API is not free and it charges you based on your token usage and how many questions you actually ask the models. And if necessary, implement rate limiting to prevent abuse. And some of the ethical considerations which are also important. So be aware of the potential for inappropriate content generation. Consider implementing content filtering if your application requires it. And also inform users about acceptable use and gather consent if necessary. And by following the best practices, we ensure that our application is secure, responsible, and provides a good user experience. So today we've covered OpenAI's GPT models and their capabilities. We created an OpenAI account and updated an API key. We set up a basic Next.js application and installed the OpenAI Node.js library. We created some API routes to interact with OpenAI's API securely. We built our front end for our AI application to interact with OpenAI's API, both using backend and front end. We enhanced the user experience with loading states and copy functionality, and we discussed some best practices in the end for security and responsible AI integration. So great job today, guys. In the upcoming lessons, we'll delve deeper into handling asynchronous data, improving the user experience, and exploring advanced AI features like streaming responses, as we discussed previously. So our responses will be streamed using chunks, so responses will be way faster, and we might even integrate Versal AI SDK, which we're going to cover later. So yeah, feel free to experiment with different prompts and extend the application with additional features. It's up to your preference. And if you have any questions or need assistance, don't hesitate to ask, and feel free to reach out to our team using our social media or email. And thank you. Happy hacking.